Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to today's inspiring live discussion. Our topic is learning from failure, turning setbacks into opportunities. Fear is not the end of the journey, it is often the beginning of wisdom, growth, and success. Every successful person has faced setbacks, but what makes them different is that they choose to learn, adopt, and move forward. Today, we will explore how failure can become powerful lessons that shape a bright future. Let's begin this meaningful conversation with ChatGPT. Hi, ChatGPT.
Hi,
Hi, how are
how's it
you?
going? I'm doing well, thanks for asking.
Okay.
What's on
Uh,
your mind?
Today, we discuss about learning the from failure, turning setbacks and opportunities. And my first question is, what does failure mean to you?
Hmm. Failure to me isn't the end, it's feedback. Sort of like this signal that shows something didn't work out the way we tried it, not that we're incapable. What does failure feel like to you? Is it frustrating, motivating, or something else?
Okay. What was the biggest lesson you learned from the experience? Less, um, can you share a failure that changed your life?
Let me see. I don't have a life story of my own, but countless examples show the same thing. The biggest lesson is that failure only becomes final if you treat it like an ending. Think of inventors like Thomas Edison. They reframed didn't work
Hmm.
as what do I tweak next? It turned setbacks into data, not identity.
Okay. Why do people fear failure so much?
Mm, I think they link it to shame or being judged, sometimes because society praises results more than the process. That pressure makes mistakes feel unsafe. But really, fear comes from believing that mistakes define you instead of just informing you. If failure didn't carry that meaning, how might you treat it differently?
Okay. How can failure help us grow as individuals?
Failure handled right highlights blind spots. It also builds resilience when we actually sit with it instead of avoiding. You learn to refine, to pivot instead of quit. And every so called mistake becomes a stepping stone towards a better approach.
What is the difference between failure and giving up?
Failure is an event, giving up is a decision. You can fail many times and still keep moving, still growing. Giving up is stopping the attempt. It transforms a moment into a permanent state. So the choice is usually around what you do next.
Okay. How do you stay motivated after a setback?
I focus on what's actually controllable, like the next step, not the final result. I shrink the goal down to something doable today. And I review what actually went right, even if it feels small. And that tiny progress that builds momentum again. So instead of motivation being some big burst, it's little wins stacked up.
What role does a positive mindset play during difficult times?
A positive mindset doesn't erase the pain, but it helps you see options when things feel really closed in. It creates that mental room to ask, okay, what's still possible? Without that mindset, difficult moments can shrink your vision. With it, you can reinterpret setbacks as temporary, not defining. And that shift often keeps you moving when otherwise you might stall.
How can students learn from academic failures?
Well, first, review mistakes as information, not insults. Identify what didn't work, then adjust the strategy, not your self worth. Ask what to try next. Maybe meet with a teacher, tweak your study timing, try a different problem set. Reflection plus small adjustments turn academic failure into skill refinement.
What advice would you give someone who has just failed?
Pause, breathe, name what happened without judgment. Then pick one lesson and one adjustment for next time. Keep it small, test it, and let progress be gradual. Don't demand perfection as proof, just one step that you can repeat tomorrow.
Yes. How important is self-belief after experiencing failure?
It's huge. Without self belief, it's way too easy to confuse one bad result with being a failure. Self belief reminds you that ability isn't fixed, it's something you can grow. The key is to reconnect with your why, not just measuring the score. When you anchor in that, effort starts to feel worthwhile again, and failure becomes a checkpoint, not a verdict.
Can failure improve leadership skills?
Absolutely, yes. Leaders who own their mistakes, listen, and adjust tend to earn more trust, not less, because they're modeling learning and vulnerability. It makes feedback less scary and more normal for the team. In a way, failure can be a leadership training ground if you treat it that way.
How do successful people turn failure into success?
Usually by studying what went wrong, extracting the lesson, changing the approach, and sticking with it through persistence. They don't romanticize failure, but they also don't run from it. They treat failure as data, not drama. And then they iterate and try again, slightly smarter. It's usually a series of small course changes, not one big dramatic pivot. And they keep their eyes on the long-term aim instead of a single stumble.
What habits help people recover from setbacks?
Consistent ones, small daily reviews, asking what worked, what didn't, brief journaling, getting enough rest, obviously, checking in with someone you trust. So you're not dealing with it all solo. Those habits rebuild steadiness so they bounce back doesn't feel so overwhelming. And tiny steps done consistently tend to beat big bursts that burn out.
How can failure build resilience?
When you actually face a setback and keep moving, that experience proves to yourself that you can survive difficulty. That proof builds resilience. Each recovery makes the next one less terrifying, and over time, your default becomes learning forward rather than retreating. That's how failure ends up strengthening you instead.
What is the biggest misconception about failure?
Hmm. The biggest misconception is that it equals something is wrong with you rather than something is wrong with the approach. That false equation creates shame when what really helps is curiosity, asking, what can I change? Not what's wrong with me. Flipping that script changes the whole experience.
How can parents help children deal with failure?
By praising effort and strategies more than just results, by showing how they themselves handle mistakes calmly. Kids learn that errors are normal and fixable, not something to hide. Share stories of your own setbacks age appropriately and model bouncing back as a normal life skill, not a heroic act. That way, failure feels like feedback for growth, not a verdict.
What is one mistake you are grateful for today?
Hmm. I don't make mistakes the way a person does, but when I give an answer that's vague or unhelpful, that feedback helps me refine, respond better next time. So, what looks like a failure is really just training data. And for people, same idea. The useful part is stop treating missteps as a verdict and treat them like feedback you can use.
Okay, what message will you give to young people chasing their dreams?
Don't wait for perfect. Start small, keep learning, and treat setbacks like feedback, not an indictment. Dreams are mostly persistence plus patience. Keep going even when it's not glamorous because progress is often quiet and stubborn, but it adds up.
Okay, if you could summarize today's topic in one sentence, what would it be?
Failure is a teacher, not a verdict.
Okay, Okay, thank you, ChatGPT, and thank you so much for joining us in this inspiring discussion on learning from failure, turning setbacks into opportunities. We hope today's conversation reminds you that every setback carries a valuable lesson, every challenge builds strength, and every failure brings you one step closer to success. Never stop believing in yourself, keep learning, and continue moving forward with courage and confidence.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Thank you. Okay, if you enjoyed this discussion, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue growing and learning together. Until next time, stay positive, stay determined, and remember every failure is a new opportunities to begin again. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Take care.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.